you think $1.2 billion or more of taxpayer dollars should be given to CBC each year? Hello, friend. Why is Canada funding CBC? Every year, the Canadian government writes a check for over $1.3 billion and hands it to CBC that turns around and competes directly with private companies like Bell Media, Global, and others for the same viewers and advertising dollars. Is that fair? Or is the CBC actually worth every cent? Well, that depends who you're asking. It seems like our present governments, they seems to think, and that's why they are not complaining. And the media, like CBC and other major players, they don't talk about that in their news coverage or any of their programming, and they don't ask that question to the politicians either. So, as you know, public broadcaster CBC has been around since 1936, over 90 years ago, I believe. And the government funds, as I mentioned, about 1.2 billion to 1.4 billion, depending a particular year. And they are competing in the free market. At the same time, they're being subsidized. So now stay with me and we can dig deeper, as you will find that some of the reasons are quite interesting. Now, originally, CBC's mandate was to promote and deliver programming to all parts of Canada. And because Canada is a very large and diverse community, big country, that commercial providers may not provide news coverage to rural communities, and cultural elements, of course, embedded with that. Having said that, that was 90 years ago. Things has changed. Now taxpayers have been funding since then. And yes, CBC do promotes culture and news. So do other free market enterprises in the same space. So the funding model is quite straightforward. CBC gets a big chunk from the government every year, and they're also getting revenue from the traditional advertisement and other sources, which is not really fair to CBC's competitors because they are not getting any handouts from the government and they're competing. So there is an element of efficiency is important to look at. As you know, CTV, Global, Bell Media, they are competing in this same space. And given the changes in technology, there is many thousands of podcasters and other online media content generators. And the competitive landscape has changed significantly. From a government's policy perspective, government should always promote free market and have the companies compete with each other in the same playing field with same law and the rules. But in this case, it seems like government, and obviously a lot of people, they are quite happy with CBC getting extra benefit, and they're extra special compared to the others. So we could actually subsidize the competitors equally, and then it would be a equal playing field. And these differences obviously creates a market tension, if you look at recently, for example, the news, CNN, MSNBC, or CTV, or CBC, you'll find that news coverage is identical. There's hardly any differences. They are repeating the same information. If you look at the entertainment, which is also complete duplication, you will find all of those coverage in YouTube and other podcasters in the online space. So now, from its efficiency's perspective, private media with their own resources, they're utilizing and maximizing their inputs for maximizing their outputs. CBC getting the big chunk of dollar, it's hard to believe that it is that efficient because that money is not hard earned. That's easily obtained. So market efficiency should be always a concern from a policy perspective. As I mentioned, YouTube and the content creators are gaining momentum each year, perhaps each a day. X is a short form. You can find news and entertainment delivery system that's matched by none, and it's growing. People can have any information they want, whenever they want, and it's really within their reach, in their handphone. So these are the reality of the situation today. We can look at the declining traditional TV, news, radio. They're all declining. And online, non-traditional platforms are gaining momentum. And we cannot ignore this changing demographic shift and habits. Yes, for argument for CBC, one can make the argument that yes, they do cover a lot of rural areas and public interest contents that other profit-oriented enterprises may not cover. But I haven't seen personally that evidence. As I said before, the news contents and entertainment contents are overlapping and identical or similar. So cultural mandate, and that was valid 90 years ago, may not be valid today. And given that Canada's immigration and population shift and multiculturalism provides a different picture. Vancouver and Toronto, according to 2021 census, over 34% of the populations are minority group or have a non-Canadian origin. So that number will grow significantly, projected to be close to 40% in the range or more by 2041. So obviously we need to look at that reality and to the future and adjust the policy and government spending of money for a narrow view. And of course, somebody can argue that why CBC should not be funded, as it actually creates a market distortion because it's competing not in the same playing field with the other private broadcasters. So it's not really a free market condition, rather it's influenced by the government and it's a distorted marketplace. On top of it, we can also clearly say the taxpayers' burden is enormous. $1 billion is not a chump change. It's a lot of money. Given today, the oil price is over $2 in all Canadian markets. It's over $2. So that's a lot of money. Sure, we cannot control directly what's happening with the oil price, but if the government had $1 extra billion in their coffer, well, that could have really helped all the citizens. Now, obviously, it's also unfair to give one entity a commercial advantage, a benefit over other. That's just simply unfair. So we can ask the government to reform CBC's mandate from what it was 90 years ago to the present. It can have a very narrow mandate. It can reduce funding significantly, or it can totally privatize CBC and have them compete with other broadcasters. And I believe that CBC have a lot of talented people, and they would probably be quite successful competing with others, but they were not given the opportunity to do so. And so they can take the opportunity and prove that they're as good as the money they're getting. So in summary, I believe from policy perspective, free market should be always promoted, and public good is only good if it is fair and its benefits is given to everybody, not a special interest group or a group in a worse country. And all of us need to pay attention to each of these $1 billion. So this is just one example of the $1 billion I'm talking about for CBC. As we do future discussion on other topic, you will see all of these $1 billion boondoggles going to add up, and this burden will continue to burden us going forward. So I would love to get your opinion and love to read what you think. Thank you.